Hey everybody, welcome back to another video here on 2A Talking Tactical. Hope you all have had a great weekend. It is Sunday, March 17th. Looking forward to this coming week. Got some cool things happening here around the house and whatnot, so looking forward to that. I debated on putting together a live video with live chat to get the input or get some input from you all, or just doing a straight out video. So I think what I'm going to do is just do a straight out video and look for a scheduled live video probably next weekend. If I can get some other stuff together, we'll kind of hit on what today's topic is going to be about, and that way I can get input from all of you. So be looking for an announcement on that here on YouTube and on my TikTok channel as well as my website. So anyway, I'm going to jump right into this. A lot of you are aware with the conflict back and forth with China. I think I've talked about that here and there in some past videos, just touching on it, about things that are going on that don't sound right. Most of you know or have heard about cattle farms catching on fire, livestock dying, poultry businesses, them catching on fire, losing their chickens, losing the eggs, and so forth. So I started diving into things related to China is what I'm getting at. And I wanted to bring some things to y'all's attention if you are not aware. So, and I thought this was really interesting. One thing leads to another, and I'm going to try to compile everything. So grab you a notebook, a legal pad or something like that, and something to write with, and just jot down some notes, and hopefully you'll see where I'm trying to go with this. As I've stated on other videos, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I never have been. I try not to fall in that rut, but I do dig into things. I research things. I try to come up with an educated opinion on different things. I don't get my information from one source or another. I get my information from multiple sources. And also what I already know, what I see, and all that. So I thought I would pass along what I have put together up to this point. So when we're talking about China, everybody knows that we're not in very good standing with China. Tensions are high with China. We know that China is working with Russia. We know that China is working with Iran. We also know that China is, in some aspects, working with the Mexican drug cartels in supplying fentanyl. There's a bunch of rabbit holes we can go down, but I'm going to try not to go down all those tonight in this one video. I just wanted to lay the groundwork down, and maybe we can go in, dive into some rabbit holes next weekend in the live. So number one, and this is not necessarily in priority order, but number one, we've got fentanyl. So we know China is making the ingredients to produce fentanyl. We know that China is selling these materials to the Mexican drug cartels, and then China's also sending over chemists to meet with the drug cartels and teach them how to make fentanyl. And then we all know the process after that. After the fentanyl's made, it's being smuggled, shipped, whatever terminology you want to use, over here into the U.S. I don't know of any other countries that is having a big a problem as we are. They may or may not. I don't know. Right now, I'm only worried about the U.S. I'm worried about us. So, having said all that, so you've got China that's, you can just write down China dash fentanyl. In if you want to, the Mexican drug cartels, Mexico. Another thing we've got China doing is they are buying farmland here in the U.S. So I was doing a little bit of study here before I started the video, and what I have found is China has purchased over, I'm trying to find my notes here. China has purchased over 200 and I think it was 60,000 acres, 283,000 acres of farmland, agriculture farmland. So, and I had heard this a while back, but had forgotten about it until just a few minutes ago. So a lot of you are familiar with Smithfield Farms. They make bacon, they make kielbasa, smoked sausage, stuff like that. I know they make some other stuff. But Smithfield Farms was bought out by a company in China in, I think it was 2021, 2022, something like that. Just a few years ago, a couple years ago, they bought out Smithfield Farms. I'm in North Carolina. Smithfield Farms has a big manufacturing facility here in North Carolina down east. So they bought the North Carolina based company, and they bought the one, I think it was in Massachusetts, if I remember correctly. So the two states, or the Smithfield Farms in the two states, they acquired 186 acres. That brought them to owning, just with Smithfield Farms, 128,000 acres. So having said all that, we also rely on China for a lot of our food imports. We rely on China to also the power grids. So I haven't worked for the power company, and some of you may or may not know, but you've got to have the infrastructure in place in order to get power to your house. So yes, the power normally is generated by a nuclear power plant, or like Duke Energy has a place just right down the road here from me where they rely on hydro, and they produce the energy there. But you've got to have the power coming out of Duke Energy. I don't know the number, but it's several thousand watts of power. So the power lines that are on the side of the road that are up high where you can't touch them, I refer to them as primaries. The ones on the big towers, the metal towers, I refer to them as transmission lines or transmission lines. So the transmission lines are going to have a few 100,000 volts. So you have to have a way to step that down in the way of transformers. So you've got transformers that are going to step very high energy down to lower energy. So then all that is stepped down to 14,400 volts that may be running through a primary from pole to pole on the side of the road. You may have 7,200 volts. That's normally the two. It's either going to be 7,200 or 14,400 volts. So when you look and you've got a transformer on a pole that's going to be stepping down your power again to get to your house. So you're stepping that voltage down. Let's just say it's 7,200. So you've got one copper line that goes up to the primary, and it goes down into the transformer, and there's a bunch of windings in the transformer, and inside the transformer is usually it's mineral oil to help keep all the components and all that as cool as possible. But you've got different components inside the I'll spit it out here in a minute, inside the transformer that step that down to 220, 240 volts. So then normally on a house, you've got, 200, let's just say 240 volts coming into your house that either comes in overhead or goes in underground, that comes into your meter base. And then from the meter base, it goes into your breaker panel. So if you've ever had the front off of breaker panel, you'll see two big black wires that come in. One's going to be solid black, the other one may have a stripe on it. But then you've got a neutral and or a ground. But the two that are coming in, they're both, let's just say they're 120 each. So there's your 240. So you've got 120 on this side of of the breaker panel, and you've got 120 on this side of the breaker panel, and then you've got your breakers that are just got wires brought into them that go to your lights, your outlets, your stove. Normally stoves are 220, so you're going to have a double pole breaker that connects. The breaker connects both legs in to get your 220 volts. So what I'm getting at is China is a big manufacturer of all these components. So basically your power grid, China is making the components to make up the power grid. So one of the big, concerns that has been on the table for several years now is the power grid infrastructure. There's a lot of states that have never upgraded their power grid for whatever reason, whether it be the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It may be a state or a community that hasn't seen a lot of growth as far as houses or people. So there's not really been a need to upgrade their power system. And that can get expensive, obviously. So, but then you've got power grids that were built to withstand, an elevation in population, houses, businesses, and whatnot. But now the power grids they're being stressed. Look what happened in Texas a few years ago. They were hit with a major winter storm. And because Texas don't normally see weather like that, their power grid was good enough for the weather that they normally have. It could not withstand those extreme temperatures with people turning on their heat. People down there are not used to that kind of cold weather. So when you're not used to that weather, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to ramp up your heat. Well, you think about, everybody doing that all at one time with an older power system, older power grid, then that's why that failed. They were not ready for that type of weather. So, and it went down. I mean, there were people that died, people were panicking, that it just caused a lot of issues. So when you've got a power grid down situation, you're going to have panic. You're going to have chaos. You're going to have things going on that you probably never thought would be going on. At the end of the day, we're still relying on China for this type of stuff. Now, I'm going to refer to a video that I watched the other day, and I've watched it twice. It is on YouTube. There is a content creator. His name is Julian Dory, and you can find his channel on YouTube. So he had done an interview with Sean Ryan. Most of you know who he is. He's former Navy SEAL and ex-CIA. So he was doing a video with Sean. And with Sean having been, in the SEALs, it's been a while, but also working in the CIA. And Sean still knows a lot of people in the three-letter agencies, and he's still in the know to some degree. So he was bringing all this stuff to Julian's attention, and of course I'm making note, and it hit me. I always knew that we rely on China for a lot of stuff, and I've asked myself, why are we relying, number one, on another country for the things that we need on an everyday basis? Why are we not producing or manufacturing the stuff that we need? Because if something happens with the relationship we have with a country that's, doing this, all they have to do is pull the plug. And where are we? We're sitting ducks. We have no power. We have no food. Whatever the case may be, we do not have anything we don't have any wheels rolling right now in the United States that we can say, okay, well, China's out of the picture. We can no longer rely on them. We have to, we've got to rely more on our stuff. We don't even have that footprint here. So it's going to cause some issues, and I'll get into that here in a few minutes. Another thing is we're relying on China for this green energy. So, everybody knows there has been a push for electric vehicles. Now, this past winter, we've seen how that worked out with some states up north. You had a bunch of dead vehicles on the interstate, on roads and parking lots, in businesses, whatever the case may be, because of the cold snap, it killed the batteries. Cold will kill a battery. The other issue is that you had a very limited number of power stations, or charging stations, I should say. A very limited number of them. Well, because of the cold weather, you had power outages. So you can't charge your electric vehicle if you found a charging station, because the charging station had no power to charge your vehicle. So you see where I'm going with that. It's a snowball effect. But as you know, our government is pushing for EV vehicles. And I may be off on the date here, but I think a date that I heard at one time was, our current administration wanted everybody to have an electric vehicle by 2035. Even some states said that everybody would have an electric vehicle by, I think it was 2035, because they were not going to import any more gasoline. They're going to have to rely on electric vehicles. Well, so backing that train up a little bit. So if let's just say everybody has an electric vehicle, and then we have an issue with China. So number one, China is the country that is producing 90% of the items that these car manufacturers have to have in order to build an electric vehicle. We're relying on China for that. The other thing we are relying on China for is the base material to make these batteries: lithium, cobalt. So if you don't have lithium and cobalt, how are you going to make these batteries? So you see where I'm going with that. So I also learned that China has invested, I'm looking for the number because I wrote it down. China has invested $43.5 billion, with a B as in boy, $43.5 billion in Africa. And some of you are going to ask why. Well, I asked why. Africa is the leading company, or is very rich in lithium and cobalt. Well, what do we need to make, or what does China need to make these batteries that go in electric vehicles? Lithium and cobalt. What kind of battery is probably in your cell phone that you're watching this video on? A lithium battery. What's the battery made out of that's in the laptop that you do your research on this? Lithium. So you see where I'm going with that. So China has invested $43.5 billion in Africa. And so that should be an eye opener for you, and also another concern factor. So it's like, what is their end game? What is China's end game? Another thing that we are relying heavily on China for is prescription medication. So I wanted to be right on this because majority of the U.S. population is on some sort of medication, whether it be blood pressure medicine, whether it be blood thinners. How many of you have acid reflux and rely on a medicine like Nexium or something like that? There are generics that one of them is called omeprazole. So China, we get a majority of our omeprazole, even though it's distributed by other companies, we get omeprazole from China. So, and I double checked on this. So China, we are relying on China for 83% of our medications. And I was not aware of this. We also rely on China for a little bitty white pill that a lot of people take one every day for heart health. They may have a headache or just general aches and pains. Aspirin. We rely on China for aspirin. Now, some of you are going to go back and look, or you're going to say, well, that's made in the U.S. Well, Bayer's made in the U.S. On paper, it's made in the U.S. But when you dig deep into the contents of aspirin, at the end of the day, we are relying on China for aspirin. Meat plants. I go back to Smithfield Farms. Smithfield Farms, they were a meat producer. We're relying on China for a lot of our meat. It is widely known that the beef over in China is, it's good beef. It's expensive, but it's good beef. Some of you may be familiar with 100% Wagyu. Well, Wagyu is from China. I don't know many people that can afford it, but now there are some companies here in the U.S. that are making like a U.S.-China, like a 50-50 blend of Wagyu beef, but it's not true Wagyu. So we are relying on China for a lot of things. And, I've asked the question before rhetorically, but I'll ask again here, is why are we relying on China for so much? Why is our administration not doing something or putting something in place where we can start new businesses, we can start either man-made, or why are we not working with Africa to obtain these materials that we need for the stuff that we use? Because if tensions grow much higher with China, all it's going to take is for China to possibly push a button and do what they do, and we've got a grid down issue. Can you imagine the chaos that is going to be on our hands if the power grid goes down? People today, majority of the people today, are not ready for a situation like that. A lot of people don't think it's ever going to happen. I hope it don't, but that's one of those things that I would rather be ready for it and have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Another thing that this is kind of sensitive to me right now, and it may be sadly to some of you, but the issue with fentanyl. So I've had a situation come up here in the last few days where somebody that I know has lost a child because of fentanyl. And that is not something that I wish on anybody, because for different circumstances, I've been in those shoes. And I don't wish that on my worst enemy. But having said that, I asked myself this question is, we all know that there is a fentanyl crisis in every state. I'm going to go out on a leg and say in every town, in every city, fentanyl is an issue. Probably 1 out of 3 of you, if not more, has been affected in some way, shape, fashion, or form by fentanyl. You either know somebody that has either died from fentanyl, has lost a family member from fentanyl, or, I hope this is not true, you may be battling that demon yourself. And all I can say is, and all I will say is, I don't understand, but I do understand. It is I don't even know that there's words for it, but try to get help. By all means, try to get help. Anyway, so my question is if you could even come close to fathom how many people are struggling with this fentanyl addiction, this heroin addiction. One of the big arguments is our administration is not doing anything to restrict the flow of fentanyl coming into the U.S. I'm a firm believer in that. But then I got to thinking, I was like, if you could even come close to having a number in your head about how many people that have a fentanyl addiction, and we're never going to stop it, but even if we could, let's just say we could cut it cut it out 50%. These people that are addicted to fentanyl are going to go out and they're going to do some stupid shit to try to get their fix. Whether they think you may have it, they think you may have a prescription medication that can take fentanyl's place. I don't know enough about it to say that there's even anything out there. But what I'm getting at, and I'm just going to say it, you start taking fentanyl away from these people that are hooked on it, and they're going to start doing some stupid shit. They're going to be causing crimes. They're going to be assaulting people. They're going to be killing people. They're going to be breaking in people's houses. And you've already got the issue with people being fed up with crime in their town, in their neighborhood, in their community. And more people are, they have firearms to protect themselves. So you take somebody that is addicted to fentanyl and they start trying to break in somebody's house, there's a good chance they're going to get shot and killed. And I don't know of anybody that, especially a responsible gun owner, I don't know anybody that wants to shoot and kill somebody that, is breaking in their house or is looking to do them harm. But who are you going to look after? You're going to look after number one. And that's just human nature. I'm in the same boat. I hope the time never comes that I have to do that, but I would do that. So at the end of the day, it's like you don't put a stop to it. You've got deaths. You put a halt to some of it. The fentanyl itself may not kill them, but the drive to find fentanyl may get them killed. So it's a very sharp, double-edged sword. But I've given that a lot of thought here in the last few days. I'm like, what do we do? What is the answer at this point? Because it's so widespread now. I don't know that there is a quote fix. I don't know. So moving on from that, I wanted to bring you also up to date, and I was not aware of this, that several countries are not accepting the US dollar. Now, I have tried to do some research on this, and from what I have found, I find this to be true. You may find something that says it's not, and that's fine, but it is. I tend to believe it for several different reasons. But the American dollar, France is debating on not accepting it anymore. Brazil and Saudi Arabia is not accepting the US dollar anymore. Argentina is on the table whether or not they're going to accept it anymore. So there are countries that are not going to be or are already not accepting the US dollar because it's not worth anything anymore. So that is a problem. The other problem is, and I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of this, is the ammunition manufacturers. They've got a lot of heat on them right now about selling ammunition to people like you and I. There are some ammunition manufacturers that have halted selling to the general public, the civilian, and they are only selling to the military, or they acquired the contract to manufacture and send ammunition over to Ukraine. I heard a story this morning about some Ukrainian soldiers that retreated from wherever it was they were because they had run out of ammunition. And from all accounts I'm hearing, Ukraine's holding their own. They're doing a good job. I don't think Putin expected to get the resistance that he's gotten. But if they don't have the ammunition, they could lose this war. And Russia is pumping out 250,000 rounds of different types of rounds every day, is what I'm understanding. So I'm going to, somewhat end this video on this note. If you already if you're comfortable with your amount of ammunition that you have, then hold on to it. If you go target practicing, try to replace what you shoot fairly quickly, or have it ready to, replace, kind of rotate it out, if you will. And if you're looking to buy some, go check out my website. I've got some awesome deals going on right now through Brownells on some ammo. I think the sale ends tomorrow on the 9mm, and I think the 5.56. I'll have to go back and check that. But if the link is there, then the sale should still be going on. It will end sometime tomorrow. I don't know exactly when, but I'll try to keep an eye on that. But I will be posting some more links on some ammunition. If you can use those links to buy, number one, you're getting the ammunition on sale, but you're also helping me out on the channel, as those are affiliate links. And in full disclosure, these companies, they do pay me a small commission if you buy. So I'm turning around and using that money back on the platform here. So it does help me out. It also helps the channel out. And you're still getting an awesome deal on the ammunition. So I'm going to try to stay on top of that. Also, if you're looking for something that goes bang or boom, I've got some links on my website to some awesome deals on some items there. You may be wanting to build you a Lego set or something like that, with some Lego pieces that are on sale that you may or may not need. But anyway, just check out my website, 2atalkingtactical.com. You'll find the link in the description below, and just go through and click on the links in the website, and you'll find it. So anyway, that's all I have tonight. I will try to set up a live for this coming weekend. I don't know if it'll be Saturday or Sunday, so be watching out for that announcement. And as always, if you like the content, give me a like. If you have not followed yet or subscribed, please consider following and subscribing. If you haven't followed me on TikTok yet, if you will follow me on there, I'm not going to get into the back and forth on the TikTok right now. I don't put anything out there that I'm worried about somebody else finding about. So I'm trying to get my followers up there, where I can also do some lives on TikTok and have a little bit of fun there, and maybe give some stuff away. So anyway, again, check out give me a like, subscribe on the YouTube, on the TikTok. I'm also on Instagram and X. And please go check out my website, 2atalk, the letter N, tactical.com. You can find a link below in the description. And as always, please stay safe, stay blessed, and stay armed. Hope you all have a good rest of the weekend, and God bless.